Hello everybody, Boilon here, and welcome back to another video on Marvel Strike Force. Today is Sunday, and today is the day before the Black Cat trials. So in today's video, what we're going to be covering is we're going to be covering all of the trait lanes that are required for the Black Cat event for those of you who may be your first time running the Black Cat event, or maybe for those of you who's going to be running their second time, but maybe looking to get an updated view of what characters to bring into this event. So we're going to be going over each of the 4 traits that are required for this one by one until we get them all done. And for those of you who don't remember or weren't around for this, we have Nowhere, Sinister Six. This is the sort of 2, 6, and 10, the traits for that. We have Villain Mystic. Now, this is different than, obviously, City Villain, which we just had to go through for the Green Goblin trials. This one's a little bit easier. We do have Goblin. We have Global Controller, and then we have Brawlers. So we're going to be talking about those 4 sections in today's video and covering what I believe is to be the best characters for this event. So if you're ready to go, everybody, let's boil this down. And so the first section that I want to cover is going to be the Villain Mystics. We're probably going to leave the Sinister Six and Nowhere for last because I feel like there's a special consideration that we need to think about now, especially when we're in the era of the Superior Six and the Sinister Six rework, which is going to be a lot better. And I know a lot of people had laughed at me in the past when I used Sinister Six 3 months ago when we did the first Black Cat, but boy, I'm going to be having a lot of fun redoing this with the rework now, but we'll be talking about that later. So, Villain Mystic. What are some of the best characters that you can use for this? Now, there have been some changes, but we had the release of Bifrost, we had the release of Pegasus, and now the Superior Six. So those are sort of the newer characters that have come to the field. That being said, for Villain Mystics, I still think a lot of the same characters that we used back then are still relevant now. So we have basically Dormhold. We have Dormammu, we have Morgan Le Fay, we have Strange Heartless, or Evil Strange, I call him, Agatha, and maybe Hela. So some of these characters that are obviously kind of on the top shelf of my roster are the characters that you want to consider. I probably wouldn't use the combo of Loki and Sylvie at this point. So if I really had to choose a top 5, there's actually like 3 Bifrost characters here. The problem is that you don't have Vol. So there's a lot of reasons why this would kind of break down. So if I really had to choose some characters for this, then it would be Morgan Le Fay, it would be Strange Heartless, it would be Agatha, it would be Dormammu. And if you're not quite there at Dark Dimension 5, then maybe you're not running it at difficult. This is largely going to be for like difficulty 7 and 8. That's kind of what we're talking about here. Maybe you can get away with some of these other characters like the Bifrost characters at a lower difficulty. Haven't really tried it. I admit I haven't tried it, but it kind of misses Beta Ray Bill and Vol, and so I feel like we're missing some of the good cards there. And then of course we have Doctor Doom, and I feel like those 5 are probably going to be your best bet. Now, alternative characters, you can give Bifrost a shot, especially if they're high powered, then you might be able to get through that. I think that really you're going to have the easiest time with a combination of Darkhold, Dormammu, and Doctor Doom. Some people don't have Doctor Doom leveled up anymore, though. So I mean, at that point, I would probably use regular Loki. Actually, in fact, I think Sylvie's cooldowns are just far too high to kind of be relevant for this. But regular Loki might, because regular Loki also has some additional. His passive basically fill speed bar of Mystic Controllers, which is what this pretty much is. So a lot of them are controller type characters, with the exception of Strange. So you're gonna get some really good value out of that, and also lower the resistance by 30% for all enemies. So because he's been reworked, this is actually a decent, and Mystic Controller's 20% resistance. There's some decent stuff that you'll get out of regular Loki. Also, the Mind Control might help you as well, getting through some of these nodes. I just really wouldn't go back and level. If you haven't already, don't do any of these other characters that are further down my roster. And just to take a look at the section really quickly as well, we have Mission 3. Can I do this? Nope, that'll open up the portrait. So node number 3. This is the first one. It's not that bad. This is pre-reworked Sinister Six, so as far as I'm aware, we're not going to get reworked versions of Doc Ock and Vulture in here, so it should be a little bit easier. That's the first wave there, and then the second wave, we have some Uncanny X-Men, I guess, and some Brotherhood Marauders characters with Madeline Pryor and Phoenix. So you'll want to make sure that you want to get the magics down before the Phoenix, otherwise Phoenix is just going to keep coming back with magic. So just be aware of that. And then, of course, for node number, which one is it? Node number 7. This was a little bit trickier, in my opinion, but it's not that bad. It's just Quicksilver is a bit of a pain in the ass. especially on higher difficulties. So depending on, and take a look at the character's powers. Like this is kind of important, I suppose, when you're considering doing difficulty 8. That means you're going to want your characters at least in the gear 16 kind of 200-ish more higher K range in terms of your power. So don't ignore the fact that, yeah, you're going up against basically 300K power enemies. We have some Death Seed characters alongside that, so you're going to want to make sure that you take them out appropriately. Make sure that you watch out for Psylocke, who chucks back negative stats effects. Emmerfrost, who clears it. So this. I didn't find this part to be really all that problematic. Just if you, as long as you have Darkhold and maybe Dormammu, right, then you'll have a pretty decent time. If you don't, you might not be able to do difficulty 8, basically. Assume that difficulty 8 plus is going to be for characters that have the best possible combination of characters to do this. So that is Villain Mystic. Otherwise, let me know in the comments down below what characters really worked for you. And next up is Global Controller. And you might notice that some of the same characters we just talked about are here again. Why? Because Darkhold is largely, it's like a full global team for the most part, and they're controllers. So you see Morgan Le Fay, you see Doctor Doom, who we just talked about as well. And I believe, oh no, I thought Agatha was in here. No, Agatha's not global, I guess. But anyways, you have at least Morgan Le Fay. So Morgan Le Fay, once again, double dipping here in for the Black Cat Trials. Darkhold, just tons of value. You make sure that you still have Darkhold leveled up, because I swear, some of these characters just come back and back and back for events. Not just for what you need them for with Apocalypse, but yeah, Darkhold has a lot of tremendous value across the entire game, honestly, at this point. Now, beyond Morgan Le Fay, and of course Doctor Doom, who we're seeing here, we're also seeing Omega Red. Omega Red is still a strong pick. He's a character that a lot of people are still taking into Dark Dimension 6 Legendary, just because that 4th Trial Legendary isn't out yet to kind of shimmy out someone else. So Omega Red is still on this list, which means that he'll get a lot of value there. We're also bringing in Scarlet Witch. So in case that you want to use as part of Darkhold, if for those of you who do have her leveled up as part of the whole Darkhold team for Apocalypse or whatnot, you're going to get some decent value out of that. Aside from that, you're going to get Magneto and Dark Beast, which are actually a pretty decent combination. And if you did take Black Widow to Dark Dimension 6, these are kind of the top, what I would say, 7 character picks. So I think make sure that you're using them in tandem, though. So, use Morgan Le Fay. Morgan Le Fay is fine standalone. Omega Red is fine standalone. But make sure that you're using kind of Magneto and Dark Beast together. I think that having just one of them by themselves probably isn't going to make a lot of difference there. My Black Widow, what I remember, because this was post-Infestation rework, actually did some good value. So if you do have Black Widow leveled up, then you'll probably get some good value out of them as well. And assuming the Doctor Doom is still alive from your previous nodes, you'll get some good value out of them as well. But aside from that, I'm not sure if the rest really make the cut, in my opinion, because a lot of this is going to be solo value. There is Ant-Man, I suppose, part of Infestation, but it's kind of like a war defense team. The rest of them, I just don't think that you're going to get a lot of value out of it for these nodes here. Let's take a look at the node itself. So mission number 4, Global Controller. And we have Icarus and Cersei, but on separate waves. So you really need to make sure that you're killing Icarus before the second wave drops. We do have some Hero as Guardians. I don't know why it took me a while to come up with that, with Valkyrie, Thor, and Mighty Thor. And then we have some Dark Hunters in the further waves with here Mordo, Elsa, and then Ghost Rider regular and Dr. Voodoo. So I don't think this is a really challenging node. Just make sure that you're killing Icarus before Cersei drops, and I think that's really all you have to be concerned about there. So I don't think this part is that hard. The other node for node number 8 with Gwenpool as a boss, again, you're getting a lot of sort of, I was gonna say Young Avengers. There are some Young Avengers here and some New Warriors. Double Quakes, not really a big deal. That's just the Inhuman synergy there with Miss Marvel. And then we have the second wave down below. This is where it gets a little bit trickier, because then you have a Red Hulk, and then you have Kestrel. Kestrel can actually disrupt Doctor Doom's bots if you're leaving this for the last minute. Now, this is node number 8, which I do believe comes at the end. Is it? Yeah, so basically, if you have cleared node number 7 from the Villain Mystics and you're still using Doom, then it'll be fine to kind of blow your cooldowns here. I'd recommend it before the Kestrel wave, though. And Red Hulk is a little bit of a problem, but as long as you use your cooldowns properly, especially for some of these other characters, depending on who you're using, like Omega Red obviously has an ability block, really good cooldowns here. Morgan Le Fay, good cooldowns. Even Black Widow can actually stun Red Hulk, so it's not that big of a problem, so you can get him down. I did use Black Widow actually in my in my first Black Cat run. So that's going to be global controllers again. So my TLDR recommendation still these kind of top 6 characters. You could include Scarlet Witch as well if you need to, but I don't know if her value is really as good as some of these other characters here. Other than that, if you're really desperate, you could use some of these that are come after, minus US Agent. Don't use US Agent. But realistically, I would just stick to kind of my top build characters. So that's going to be Global Controller. And now we're coming to, basically the Green Goblin equivalent of the city villain. Now that's the Brawler tag. And you wouldn't think that that's that bad, but there's a very set specific characters that you're going to want to use for this. And if you don't have them, at least for difficulty 7 and 8, it could prove to be a little bit challenging. So what has changed since then? Well, you might have a bigger Vol than you did back then 3 months ago because Bifrost was still pretty new. And then Vulture has had a rework. There's also Craven the Hunter, although I'm not sure if you're going to get a ton of value out of Craven right now. But if you have him seriously built, you might be able to. It's just there's not a lot of other characters to use in the Sinister Six category really at this point in time. But Vulture standalone is probably going to get some really big value, so I'm going to be trying to use him as well. So Vol, Red Hulk, Vulture, and Black Cat as well. So, if this is your second time running Black Cat, you probably have Black Cat Max at this point. If you're just unlocking Black Cat, I would recommend doing a lower difficulty, say difficulty 5 or 6. Try to get Black Cat up as high as possible and then putting her back into the Black Cat trials for you to kind of bump your score up. And then, of course, we have Quicksilver here. So in my opinion, I think these are probably going to be your 5 best characters. Vulture, Vol, Red Hulk, Black Cat in their own trial, Quicksilver. There are some alternative characters that you can use, like Shang-Chi, Deathpool, and Abomination, especially the combo of Red Hulk and Abomination. This might work for you as well. But I think that the 5 that I just mentioned are probably going to be your best bet. Quicksilver is really good when it comes to these sort of events as a standalone character. Quicksilver has a really great kit, puts on a lot of negative stats effects, and they're really important. But when we get to the second Brawler node, having both Vol and Red Hulk are going to be really, actually, frankly, and Black Cat too, are going to be really important. So we really need to talk about the nodes themselves. There is Psylocke here, standalone, but she's slow, actually, and I don't think that you're going to get a lot of good value. And the other characters down below, you might get some standalone value out of Titania if you've had her built up, but aside from that, I wouldn't really stress too much of these other characters. Let's take a look at the nodes, though. So node number 5, this one's not really, in my opinion, that big of a deal. It's basically you have a lot of X Factor characters. You do have an Agatha here in Wave 1, also a Wong, and when you get down below, then you'll see why. Because there's 2 Strange Heartlesses, and right at the bottom, Wave number 3, we have Morgan Le Fay. So basically, you don't want them to stack up. Try to make sure that they're separated, especially Agatha, because you don't want that synergy. And also, you just don't want Wong taunting. That being said, you want to make sure that you kill Longshot first. It's fairly easy to get through this node because if you start hitting multiple man, he spawns the clones, which then kind of, as long as you leave the clones alone, it won't trigger the next wave because it'll think that there is a lot of characters on the field. So making sure that you get Wong and Agatha down, in my opinion, and probably Longshot because he triggers speed bar for the rest of the team, then that'll be the easiest way to kind of prepare for the following waves. So I didn't find this node that hard, though there is node number 9. And this one isn't too bad on the surface. Actually, no, it's not bad. I don't recall this one being that bad. I think it was the first one that was a little bit harder, only because of the Darkhold. But I think that overall it's actually not that bad. Now, do keep in mind that, of course, this whole trial has the war text active, or you can activate the war text rather, which a lot of people will end up doing, especially for, which we'll talk about, of course, the Nowhere in Sinister Six, and especially now with the rework Sinister Six, there's additional war context for some of the characters there, and so you're going to get a lot of value out of that. Just make sure that when you're going into some of these nodes, there is some issue with that in terms of getting certain characters having an additional war value, especially here on node number 5 with the X Factor characters. They do have some war. Honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head because it's been so long since I've used them what the war text is for them, but I know that they do get some war offense value, which they'll end up getting when you take that pact on. So do keep that in mind. But otherwise, not too terrible, especially if you're able to use Black Cat. And if you're someone who built up Vulture, I think you're going to get a lot of value. I'm saying this in advance, but honestly, I've had a lot of great usage out of Vulture. I think he's an amazing character, so I plan to use him a lot for this trial. Let's move on to the final. All right, so we got to talk about Nowhere in Sinister Six. Now, previously, the knowledge or the wisdom was to upgrade Nowhere. That people got the best bang for your buck for that by upgrading Nowhere. If you guys were around 3 months ago, I did not do that. I upgraded Nova, and then I used Doc Ock, Swarm, and a bunch of my other Sinister Six at that time who were pre-reworked. Mysterio, Vulture, these kind of characters, Electro, these kind of characters. Now that they've been reworked, honestly, I think you're going to get a tremendous amount of value because they're the team right now. Sinister Six and Superior Six are the characters for this patch, but the rework was honestly amazing. Like next to Gamora's empowered rework, I think that the Sinister Six got a tremendous rework. I love the Sinister Six. So what would I recommend? Now that we've had the payout for Green Goblin, obviously, Doc Ock and Green Goblin Classic make the cut. I would also put Vulture on there, despite Vulture also being a brawler, assuming that you can keep him alive and it's not really that problematic for you, which I just realized was the case after we've done this last. Also, Mysterio, very, very strong kit, especially with this special, because this part here, where it says in war, if this character has 2 or more Superior 6 apply blind, this is actually not just a war. It's actually doing it everywhere. So very strong kit. Also, his minions stay alive a long time now. Like Mysterio is such a great character now. His ultimate, summoning more of his minions, it's just clones rather, just really, really crazy. So if I honestly had to pick, because most people aren't going to have the Swarm that I do, I might still end up using Swarm. My Kraven's just not built enough and his stars are kind of low. So I'm probably going to use this set of 5 characters right here. So Doc Ock, Vulture, Electro, Mysterio, and Green Goblin Classic. If you do have Swarm built up somewhere as high as I do, you could consider putting in Swarm for one of the other characters. But Electro actually has some Vortex, so if you're using that, which most people will be, Electro does get some additional... I thought it was here, actually. Maybe she got reworked, but the apply offense down for 2 turns and the clearing all positive. I thought this was actually relegated to war, but I guess not. Maybe that was part of the rework. I didn't really pay attention, but there is some additional war text anyways that Electro does get. So keep that in mind as well. Very, very good set of characters. I don't think you're going to have much of a problem you doing with this. But if you do, if you have nowhere built, you probably are already going to use them. What you could do, and I'm going to have to do some experimentation on this, is if you have Nowhere standalone, if you have Nova standalone, you might get some good value out of that. Because obviously Nova has his battlefield effect, the Nova Force, which actually applies deflect. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know, where's Nova Force? It applies deflect, gains 2 deflect up to a max of 10 on the character or ally's turn. Deflect is very, very good with Doc Ock and the Sinister Six. So, if you have Nova built up, but you don't have all of the Sinister Six built up, just slide in Nova, and honestly, you'll probably get really good value out of that as well. Just make sure that you're using the Green Goblin and Doc Ock together, because I think you're going to get the most amount of value for those characters there. So don't go out without Doc Ock or Green Goblin Classic, both of them together if you can, because a lot of the characters' text, including even Shocker, the summon that you get from Doc Ock, his ultimate will reduce the speed bar for all targets by 20%, and then when he repeats the attack, right? So there's a lot of kind of AoE-ish turn bar reduction, and you need 2 or more Sinister Six, Superior Six, so you're going to need Green Goblin. Or Kraven if you didn't unlock Green Goblin, but there it is. The hardest thing about this node, about these sections, is getting a 10-node run. So there is a pack that actually, I believe, shares all Guardian characters are Nowhere characters. So in this instance, since the rework, or since the patch for Nowhere, Gamora and Nebula was added. Nebula was added to be a Guardian. And so all of these characters on these nodes share all the benefits that basically Nova and Cosmo give to the rest of the team. So this node was actually quite challenging for me when I did it with my original kind of unreworked Sinister Six with Doc Ock and Nova. I had a hard time getting through this. I actually was not able to clear it on D8 because, my Sinister Six were just not up to snuff to be able to do that. Even with Nova, it just was not enough on difficulty 8. So I'm going to be giving this another run and hopefully improving my score from last time. And then obviously there's a Kestrel here that kind of ruins your day a little bit when it comes to summons, depending on which characters you're using. This time around, I think it's going to be a lot easier. There's also a Kang at the very end. So it is a kind of a challenging node, but if you're using the right set of characters, just be aware that with all the packs on, that Nova is going to buff basically everyone else, especially Gamora. And this first wave really gets buffed to hell. But I am looking forward to giving this another go. I'll probably be putting out some videos, especially with my new Sinister Six running this entirely. And then maybe I might, depending on the node, I might slide in Nova for one of these characters. I'll just have to see how it plays out in difficulty 8. But I would still recommend Sinister Six over the full Nowhere team at this point, because I think that you're going to get a lot of longer term value out of these characters because they're the newest and freshest characters. Just my thoughts as well. So that's going to be the end of this video, everyone, and I hope it helps everyone, and good luck on the Black Cat trials on Monday, and there'll be more videos to come. So that's going to be that's going to be the end of this video. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And until next time, stay safe and healthy. And I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.